Soul Simmers, and welcome back to a brand new episode in the Mod Mansion series. If you have missed all the previous parts of this series, let me quickly explain the concept here. I built this over on Twitch so that all of my moderators would be living in a mansion together. They would have their own room, they would have a bunch of common spaces, and it would basically be this space where everyone could live together, and through this project, we would be able to get to know each other better. That was the idea of this. We've been working on this for like the past 6 months over on my Twitch, so it's been a huge project. And in the episodes 1 to 4, I basically show you how I built the shell of this house, how I did the landscaping, and how I decorated all of the common areas. However, with this episode, we are actually getting into the purpose and the funnest part, in my opinion, of this entire series, and that is working on the bedrooms. Prior to this project, basically, like to recording and to building this over on my Twitch streams, I had asked all of my moderators to fill in a little questionnaire with questions about their favorite color, their style, their favorite food, stuff like that. Because, like I said, I wanted this as a project to get to know each other better. So there were also questions in there that weren't like directly related to maybe what their bedroom would look like, but it was mostly related to their hobbies, their job, just so that I could make sure that their living space in this house would represent who they are as a person. The bedroom that we started with is from my moderator Tubro, and funnily enough, like we did a wheel spin, so I basically put all the names of my moderators on a wheel spin, and then we would spin the wheel to see who would go up next so that it would be randomized. That's also how we divided the bedrooms, so everyone got assigned a random bedroom, but some of them turned out so perfectly, and it was actually really funny to see. But like I said, we're starting with the room for my moderator Tubro, and Tubro is one of my oldest moderators, and just for like, I think shits and giggles, he said that he did not want to fill in the questionnaire, and he wanted me to just fill in the room or like decorate his bedroom based on how I know him as a person. Also in this video, if I switch from Tubro to TubTub, TubTub has become his username on Twitch, and that's mainly how I refer to him. So if you hear me say TubTub, I'm actually talking about Tubro, but he joined my streams really early on. Like, I think he was one of the people that followed me in potentially like the second month of streaming. That was in 2021, so it's been a good while. He became a mod for me in December 2021, and we actually met for the first time in 2022 at a music festival called Rosannatxt, where we basically spent the entire weekend hanging out, vibing, talking, chatting. So at this point, I have met him multiple times as well, which I feel like definitely helped in me being able to make a room for him without having all those answers to the questionnaire and really just basing it off of him as a vibe. TubTub is a filmmaker from Mexico who is currently living in Europe to study for film school, which means that obviously the film part had to be heavily represented in his bedroom because that's just a really important part of his life. Next to that, I wanted to make sure that there were like nods and little things that represented his Mexican heritage because I feel like that would just make sense for him to have that in his room, to have that part of his life represented. Next to that, he really loves good food. I think every single time we meet up, we have good food or we talk about good food. And he has a dog back home, and he loves to go to live music and concerts. So those were all other little things that I know about him that I wanted to make sure was incorporated in one way. He also travels a lot, and he doesn't own a lot of possessions, or at least if he does, they are not traveling with him and it's like not in a singular place. So I wanted to make sure that this room held some clutter that would be references to either the places that he's from, the places that he's traveled to, his music, his work, but I also wanted to make sure that it didn't look like he had like a huge wardrobe or a lot of stuff, because that doesn't actually make a lot of sense for someone who travels a lot, and also for someone who's primarily not living in the place that they grew up in. Also, in case you saw me add a debug baby under the bed earlier and you're wondering why on earth I added that, that is my revenge. If I do a challenge on Twitch where I do any type of building where chat gets to redeem items that I have to put in my build, or when my moderators make a shell challenge for me, TubTub literally always adds at least one debug baby, sometimes multiple, sometimes ginormous ones. It's the one thing that has just almost become a meme in the community, that every single time he has a say in what we do in The Sims, a debug baby is involved. And of course I had to make sure that a debug baby would also be involved in his bedroom in the Mod Mansion. And when he saw this, because he was actually not there when we built this live on stream, he very much approved of the decision to add the baby underneath the bed. Next to that, you'll see me add like a bunch of movie posters, a music station over here so that he can listen to all the music that he has seen in live concerts, because I kid you not, this man has seen more concerts than any person I know. Every single time I talk to him about certain artists that I would like to see live or certain artists that I know and love, he will almost always, without fail, respond with, "Oh, I've seen them live at this and this point in time." It's actually really fun to talk with him about music because he's seen so many artists live. Like, he can really compare, and he can also really judge how artists like perform live compared to on the album, and obviously that love for music had to be represented. Next to that, like I said, I tried to add details from Mexico. I tried to add that in posters, in the in like little decorations. We end up adding specific like types of pillows. We change out the rug to something that has a more Mexican design. I actually used a specific CC set that is called Hacienda, which specifically talks about integrating like Mexican designs into that CC. It is linked on my CC page if you're ever curious what I'm using, but this is the pack that it's from. It's from Sixum, and they visited Mexico, and they actually said that they really loved the way that everything looked, and that they tried to create a CC set from that. So that was actually perfect in using it for decorating this room. Next to that, you saw me add a bunch of cameras, obviously to represent his love for filmmaking, and a bunch of film props as well. We are now moving on to the bathroom, which is the first bathroom in the house, and that was actually quite a challenge because I wanted to make sure that we went for a design that on one hand was basically copy pasta enough that every single bathroom in the house could be derived from this, but at the same time I wanted to have something that I could adjust a little bit here and there to match personal preferences, because in a mansion it only makes sense that people would have slightly customized bathrooms. So I decided to go for this wallpaper because it comes in a lot of color swatches in like different variants, so I could switch it out per person to create sort of a common style between all the bathrooms, yet make it a bit more personal in between all of the moderators. From here, basically, I just add a bunch of details. We try to, funnily enough, as a nod to his name, fill the tub with another tub, like add a mini tub in the tub so it would be a tub, which on stream was very funny. Now that I'm saying it in the voiceover, I don't think it is as funny, but we had a lot of fun trying to recreate this on stream. Unfortunately, every single time we sized down one of the bathtubs, it actually adds the debug water to it so that it looked like the bath was filled with water. I'm not sure if in the end we kept it or we removed it. Like I've said in prior episodes, unfortunately, the mod mansion is lost. My game reset the worlds to the default, which basically meant that this build got lost in time, which is obviously very sad, but that also means that I can't really go back to check with some things what I did moving forward. So at this point, we are moving on to the second bedroom in the house, which is the bedroom of Micah. And for anyone who doesn't know, Micah is also the person who edits the Pack Legacy episodes. So if you've been enjoying the Pack Legacy edits, the credits go to Micah. And I've been having such a great time working with her as an editor on that because she has such a good sense of humor and she always manages to pick out the funniest part of those episodes and like highlight them. So yeah, if you've also been enjoying that, give her a cheeky little thumbs up or your favorite emoji or anything in the comments. I think it would be really cool if she can read that afterwards. But Micah did actually fill in the questionnaire that I sent out up front, so I would love to share some of the answers that she gave because I feel like a lot of the things are incorporated in the rooms that I end up building for them. So I'm just gonna share with you guys the answers that every single one of the moderators gave if they filled in the questionnaire so that you guys can get to know them through that a little bit more as well. So one of the questions that I asked, for obvious reasons, is what their favorite color is. And Micah's answer is, I wear a lot of black, but I do love orange and earthy greens or lavender. And in that sense, I think for this room, I definitely tried to translate those like earthy tones a bit more into the room than things like the black, because I feel like black is a color that even if you wear it a lot, doesn't necessarily mean that your space is going to be all black. And with that, obviously, it also helps that I have met Micah and that I like know her as a person and I've seen pictures of her space and like designs that she's made and builds that she's done in The Sims to sort of know that she wasn't the person to go for an all black room. So I didn't end up incorporating a lot of black, but the orange and the earthy greens definitely are showing up in this room. Then the next question is, what are your hobbies? And she says that her hobbies overlap a lot with her work. So anything that is creative or related to art, listening to music, and cooking. And I definitely made sure to incorporate like the creativity and the art space. I will talk a little bit more about what that exactly means in a little bit, but I really wanted to make sure that there was a good space where she could be working on those things. And I think I definitely incorporated that in the right way. So I was very happy with how that turned out. I wanted to make sure that she had a good space where she could be working on her art. Micah mostly works on digital art and like motion graphics and Blender designs. So it's very much computer work. So I wanted to make sure to have a good space in this room for that. Then the listening to music, we also end up incorporating in a similar way like we did in Tub's room, because I wanted to make sure that there was like a good music station and that there was some of the music that she really enjoys on display. So I made sure to also integrate that part of her hobbies. Cooking isn't as much involved in this room for the primary reason that we already have all the kitchen spaces. So I think for all of the mods that enjoy food and cooking and stuff like that, their hobbies are already represented in other spaces of the house, and I didn't feel like I needed to add that to their bedrooms. I asked if she had to describe her interior aesthetic in 3 words, what it would be, and she wrote minimal/clean, warm neutral tones, and Japanese inspired with bold artwork for color. And I think when you read that, that is definitely sort of coming together in this room. I really tried to go for that Japanese inspired design. Also because I've seen what she does in like her Blender art. And something that I really noticed in her Blender art is that she plays a lot with light and like how light hits the room and how light gives a room color. And I really wanted to make sure to incorporate that here together with the Japanese design to go for a really like inviting and warm space. And I think I definitely did that. I think when it comes down to the bedrooms in terms of style, this is definitely one of the rooms that is closest to how I would love to decorate my house. I have way too much clutter to decorate my house like this, but this is one of those like interior styles that I really aspire. I love it so much. It looks so clean yet so warm. Like it's not cold. It's not like one of those minimal designs that has no life or no soul, but it has like life and soul in the right places, if that makes any sense. So I really enjoyed working on this room. I feel like the style was really close to what I enjoy when I'm building in The Sims as well. Then the next question was, are you more a maximalist or a minimalist? And she said a minimalist, which I think fits very much with the art style or like the decorative style that we're going for. When I asked if she has a lot of clothes or clutter, the answer is that she doesn't own much clothing, but she does collect albums from musicians, and she has a lot of ceramics that her best friend made. And those were 2 things that I definitely wanted to include. Like I said earlier, her hobby for listening to music and stuff is definitely incorporated in displaying different album covers. But also, I really like that little detail of the ceramics that her bestie made. So I made sure to include a bunch of like self-made pots and ceramics on like a display shelf above the desk area later. And little details like that are things that you normally don't really learn about each other unless you ask about it in a project like this, because it's not something that will just like casually come up, right? It's not like someone will just casually come up to you and tell you know what? Actually, I own a lot of ceramics that my bestie made. But those little things are just really cute, and I think actually tell you a lot about the person, you know, that you're talking with. The fact that they save those things from their best friend and that they have a best friend who does ceramics, you know, I don't know. I really enjoyed learning these little details about my moderators, and I think my chat also really enjoyed this because it's just such a fun way to get to know things about people that you basically see on, in my case, a day-to-day basis. The next question was, would you consider yourself neat or messy? And then she says, my space is a reflection of my current mind. So I'm very neat until I'm stressed. And when I read that, I remember thinking to myself, I have never related to something this hard because this is me to the T. Like, I so know how that feels when you love to have a neat space, especially if you enjoy like minimalistic interior and stuff, just everything having like a spot, and even the things that you do have, like having them on a display, like in a nice space. And then as soon as you're stressed, you like cannot keep up with that and your space just becomes a big mess. So I tried to sort of go somewhere where both of this was a little bit represented. So I wanted to make sure that generally speaking, the room was like very nicely organized and very clean. But then specifically the desk space that I'm working on over here, like the space where she would probably be spending time if she was stressed, you know, when she's like working or something's going on, that there was a bit more stuff there, like a bit more clutter, a bit more like things like she's actually living here and this space is being used. That was something that I really enjoyed, like, again, trying to make these rooms look like my moderators are actually spending time here. And I feel like the desk area for Micah definitely represents that. As you can see here, I'm also adding like a bunch of like stream gear and stuff. Micah does also stream, so if you're interested, I'll make sure to link all of her channels and stuff below. Feel free to go check her out. She does a bunch of co-working, a bunch of Sims building, or a bunch of like designing and stuff on stream as well. So if you want to see what she does, feel free to go check out her channel. She is absolutely wonderful. And I wanted to make sure that she had a setup where she could both work and stream in this room as well. Then a random question that I asked that actually I think in none of the rooms for my mods get specifically represented, but I just thought it was such a fun thing to ask from people, is what their favorite food is. And Micah's favorite food is ramen, and I can only applaud that. Ramen is so delicious, especially if you get it from like a good place that makes it authentically. So yeah, just so now you know, this is going to be one of those things that for every single mod I'm going to bring this up and we're going to talk about their favorite food, even though it has no direct relation to the build. I still think that's just super cute. When I asked what job or occupation or daily activity should be represented in this room, Micah obviously said designer and artist. So I made sure to incorporate that next to, like I said, her being also a streamer and a content creator. So I wanted to make sure that all of that was represented in that desk setup. Then one of the other random questions that I asked, this was like a bit more related to the builds because sometimes it helps to know where people like to travel in terms of like what style they prefer. But her favorite place that she's ever traveled to is the Philippines. I don't think we end up incorporating that much, to be honest. I do feel like it is one of the things that matches with the other information that we already had, but down the line, I don't think that it actually is very much represented in this room. The last question is very much related to also what you're seeing on screen right now, and that is, do you like art? And if so, do you know what style you like? And then Micah says, I can appreciate different art styles. I gravitate towards illustrative and anime art styles, or landscaping and paintings and photography. And that's also why I tried to add that landscaping painting in there. To be honest, I don't remember if I keep it because this has also been quite a while since I worked on this build. But obviously, I wanted to make sure that those things were incorporated. And that I made sure that the art style, like she said earlier in one of the questions as well, like the Japanese inspired with bold artwork for color, I think that is definitely something that I wanted to make sure was in there because the rest of this room is relatively like neutral toned. So I wanted to make sure to have that art really pop. One of the things that you can also see is the rug that I added, which I think was one of those things that almost became the artwork that made things pop. I saw that rug and it immediately reminded me of koi carpers. And I told her this and I was like, oh my God, I feel like this rug is so you, but I cannot really place why. And she was like, oh my God, I love koi fish. So this is one of the things that was also very fun because I got to do this live on stream and I got to do this together with her and like other people watching, that you can get that direct feedback on your creation and whether someone resonates with what you've made for them. And the fact that I picked this rug and then the next time that she was there, I showed her and she was like, yes, this is so me. I'm absolutely obsessed with this rug. That just made it feel like I had interpreted like her instructions or her directions to what she wanted from her room in this house, like in the right way. And that was also one of the fun things is sometimes someone like describes their style in a way, but then it's still up to you to see if you interpret that correctly. And with all of those things, I almost felt like an interior architect or like an interior decorator. And I've always said that if my life had been different, I could have done one of those as a job. And this project in a way almost felt like it, and my mods were just kind of my clients. Who all got to pick their like wishes and all got to tell me what they wanted, and then I created these rooms and sort of like this artwork for them, and they got to tell me if it was something that they liked. But yeah, I think those are all the things that I wanted to tell you about Micah's room. From here, we're basically just decorating, like I said, adding little details to make the space feel alive, making sure that we add all of the music references and stuff in there. So I'll just let you guys enjoy the rest of the episode with some nice music. But if you're enjoying this series, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel so you don't miss any of the next parts. Let me know how you enjoyed this first part where we actually got to know some of the mods. In general, I would love to hear your thoughts on this series and if you're enjoying it so far. what your favorite room is so far. Again, let me also know in the comments down below, like, what is your aesthetic for your house? What kind of artwork do you like? Because just like getting to know my moderators, I think it would also be super fun to get to know you guys a little bit better. So feel free to share anything you feel comfortable sharing in the comments down below. If you like these episodes, feel free to toss them a cheeky like. And with all of that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye, everyone!